Hi everyone, and welcome to our webinar, Improve Your Bottom Line with Accounts Payable Automation. Amanda here from Microchannel Marketing. And today we have a couple of presenters and myself running through the invoice session. Firstly, Ray Dobson, he leads up the business development team at SAP Concur. Ray will be kicking off the session with some key insights that we've been seeing in the SMB space. We'll then run through a short demo of Concur Invoice with Anne-Marie, and she leads up the solutions consultant team at SAP Concur. And then it'll be time for Q&A, and we'll try and get through as many as we can at the end. And without further ado, I'll pass over to you, Ray, to kick things off. Enjoy.
Thank you, Amanda, and good afternoon, everyone. And thank you to all of you for taking the time to join us for today's Invoice Automation webinar. As Amanda mentioned, my name is Ray Dobson. I'm in the business development team at SAP Concur, which in this role that I have, it sort of affords me the privilege to speak with many of our customers on a regular basis. And at Concur, we're helping hundreds of small to medium enterprises here in Australia and New Zealand to navigate their business challenges. And with this in mind, I would just like to add my webcam on. With this in mind, look, our team, just like the team at Microchannel, are very much involved in our customers' journey, from day-to-day functions, managing through a pandemic, to watching so many customers transform the way they do business for the better. Before we jump into a demo of Concur Invoice, I thought it might be just helpful to share some insights into the current small to medium business space, look at some of the common challenges, explore some of the options we have for invoice automation, and of course, show you what success would look like with an automated invoice solution. When we get approached by businesses looking to automate their invoice process, the reasons behind wanting to move to an automated cloud solution tend to boil down to the same 6 challenges. As I go through the list, have a think about which ones resonate with yourself and your business. Most businesses across the country are still at least partially working remotely, or slowly transitioning back to the office, some faster than others, without enough time to prepare what was the sudden change of COVID, which caused massive disruption to the way businesses operate, in particular for businesses which don't have the resources to manage spend digitally. A lot of SMBs we speak to are struggling right now with more pressure on cash flow and operating on tight margins, which is making it even more critical to have a good view on spend, which is hard for businesses that don't have the processes in place that work in a decentralized environment. Manual processes, in particular those based heavily on paper, are creating a challenge for many small to medium businesses we speak with. If employees are working from home, how would you process invoices without a decentralized platform? Another massive challenge for businesses, should I say, is the lack of visibility into what is being spent, and of course when and why it's being spent. Manual processes make it nearly impossible to see quickly where an invoice sits in the life cycle, and if you're processing large amounts, it makes it even harder. Really hard to get visibility into invoices in your workflow when the processes aren't there to support it, and when people haven't been able to get into the office to collect or approve invoices or print invoices. But even think about invoicing in a normal environment. How many paper invoices get lost around the office, especially when they're passed to multiple approvers? Very frustrating. A study run by AMI Partners, which looked at more than 500 SMBs, companies with between 1 and 500 full-time employees, found that for those using manual processes for managing spend, 57% encountered duplicate data entries and inaccuracies, 66% experienced loss of invoices, and 40% still use handwritten records, and 56% experienced a lack of visibility into cash flow. A lot of room for improvement there. Anne-Marie will touch on some of the key return on investment statistics shortly, but exactly how will automation help your business? Firstly, Concur integrates into your current systems. As you'll see later, we have multiple options to which your business can integrate to your current finance system, accounting system, and by integrating Concur, your business will cut out the hassles and inaccuracies of manual data entry. By seeing outgoing spend before it happens, you can easily manage your cash flow. No more bills and payments sneaking up on you. Not only will you get visibility into numerical values, but you'll see what is going to be spent with which vendors, and of course, use this information to budget and to plan. In a world where so many of us work remotely, approving invoices from anywhere is essential. This isn't only important for those working remotely, as a matter of fact, but think about approving invoices from your mobile phone while on a job site, out of the meeting, wherever you may be, you can approve an invoice and move it through the process. Concur also replicates your current approval workflows, replicating even your delegations of authority. Now, these certainly aren't the only benefits of automation, but these are some of the most common benefits our customers speak about. And actually, I should have mentioned, last on the list is the automatic pickup of discrepancies and duplicates. When we process invoices manually, we can't help and escape human error. It is simply a part of life. Think about how easy it is to duplicate invoices, how duplicate invoices slip through cracks, in which case you could be paying invoices twice, or going through a lengthy process of getting a credit approved and so on. No one needs that. So small businesses and medium-sized businesses are concerned from the outset that putting in an automated AP solution might be long, arduous process that might engulf their resources for months and months. They're also concerned around if they are to implement a solution like this, that challenges may arise, enabling a remote workforce on how to use the solution. But we need to dispel that myth because it's actually not the case. And we've worked with a lot of businesses to help them automate their invoice process. And it's possible for you to be up and running in as little as 4 weeks. What it needs for sure is careful planning, and there's an important first step, which is to actually look closely at your current environment and processes. Most small businesses, medium-sized businesses, don't understand where their bottlenecks are. Some do some research and understand their current process, map out the life cycle of an invoice. This is what you should do in your business to understand where the roadblocks in the process are. Loop in your AP staff to provide them ownership of the project and provide insight into what their role could look like when low-value tasks are removed. Identify a staff member in your office or in your business that would like to champion the project, empower them to be a project lead. Fantastic opportunity for someone in your business. And of course, engage ourselves in microchannel so that we can demonstrate how an intelligent accounts payable solution would work in your organization. We've worked with literally hundreds, as I say, of SMBs to help them do this. So we've been able to gather a lot of intel and key learnings along the way. The speed of deployment is actually determined by the resources in your business and whether or not you can commit them. To give you a guide, for approximately 20 hours worth of time, at your end, you'll be in the driver's seat of a new digital invoice solution and process. We understand that you may only be processing a small amount of invoices, maybe 50 invoices or less, and we have built packages that are tailored to accommodate the goals and budgets of smaller businesses as well. We just recently launched the express setup of Concur Invoice, which allows your business to be live and processing invoices in as little as 4 weeks. We tailored the price point so that every small business could have access to enterprise-grade software. When we look at what success should look like with Concur Invoice, we can categorize this into 4 sections: efficiency, productivity, compliance, and visibility, of course. With an invoice solution like Concur Invoice, you can expect to increase efficiencies in your finance team, boost productivity for both end users and the finance team, increase compliance with integrated policies, and increase visibility into outgoing spend before it happens. Invoice automation is a simple way that finance leaders can take on the responsibility for paving an efficient and informed direction forward for your organisation. I'm sure you're all very keen to see how it works, so I'm going to pass you over to Anne-Marie, our Head of Solutions Consultant. Anne-Marie's at the Microchannel office, and we'll run through a demo of Concur Invoice.
Thank you, Ray. Thanks for that introduction. So we're just going to jump into the solution at this point and just take you through what that looks like from an invoice capture point of view. So ultimately, what you're seeing in front of you is the landing page for a Concur invoice solution. So typically how we end up here is that there has been a request to purchase at some point, possibly a request to purchase, or alternatively, we've just received an invoice from the supplier. Ultimately, if there's a request to purchase, that can be done through the Concur platform. There is the ability to request a purchase, and then when approved, that will generate a purchase order to go out to the supplier. Alternatively, you can create your purchase requests in your own ERP and then simply transmit the information from the purchase order and potentially goods receipt through to Concur for matching purposes. Where we are at the moment in Concur is at the invoice capture point. So regardless of whether there's a request for purchase or whether it's being created in Concur or externally, your invoices will all come into the Concur platform. Concur will pull those invoices in from your central AP email address, or there can be multiple email addresses that we can mirror, and we'll pick up any of those tax invoice attachments, pull them into the Concur platform, and it will go through the Concur scanning technology and populate those invoice details in the system. When your AP team log into the Concur platform, they'll be taken to this landing page for the invoice manager. Very quickly, you can see the various status of invoices throughout the system. So you'll notice that we have 42 unverified capture. Those are the invoices that have been pulled into the system from the AP email address and have yet to be verified by your team. There's unassigned invoices, invoices that have been pulled in but have no invoice owner. We've got unsubmitted invoices, those out in the business with invoice owners that have yet to be submitted for approval. And then, quite self-explanatory, we've got all unapproved invoices. This dashboard is a great, easy way for your AP team to be able to see exactly where the invoices in the business are at any given time. We're going to now focus on the unverified capture component, so those invoices that are coming into the business and need to go through that scanning technology and then review by your AP team. We have an example of an invoice that has come through the scanning technology. And you'll see on your right an invoice with grey shadowing over a number of the all of the text in the invoice, and you'll see on the left that there's invoice line item descriptions and expense types. If we look up the top, we can see the invoice details. So we've got who it's been automatically assigned to in the business. We've got the invoice number, date, amount, the tax component is there, the currency has already been defaulted. So when Ray mentioned, the opportunity for human error in a lot of the manual processes that a lot of businesses are currently looking at, this cuts down on the touch points from the end user point of view. It will pre-populate as much as it can by reading the invoice and picking the data up from the invoice. Some of the information is by default in the system. So you'll notice here that we have supplier information that's actually being pulled in from your system. So if you have regularly updated suppliers, then you can have a feed of those suppliers into the system on a daily basis so that they're up to date and reflected in the Concur platform. Alternatively, if it's just an ad hoc creation here and there, then you can manually pull that vendor update into the system also. If we look at the line item detail, we can see that it's picked up the descriptions, picked up the quantities, picked up the unit price. So all of that's been automatically picked up from what's been scanned in the system. It's also costed it to an expense type of computing equipment. That's defaulted based on the vendor. So the logic in the system is that with City Hi-Fi, the vendor in question, the majority of our spend with them is for computing equipment. Obviously, if you need to, you can change that default expense type. But the idea is to make it as automated and default as much information as possible so that the user doesn't really need to think too much about it. All the user really needs to do is to ensure that the information that's being captured is correct, that the quantity, unit price, and the line items reconcile back to the overall invoice total, and that ultimately we know who it needs to go to in the business. So you notice that the assigned to has also defaulted as part of this. And that's just because we know that for City Hi-Fi, we have a particular user who is responsible for that supplier and manages the purchases from that supplier. If there was a purchase number listed on the invoice, which in this case there isn't, as long as you pick up the purchase order number, then that can match to the purchase order in the platform. So whether that's been created within the Concur solution or imported into Concur, once the purchase order information is present in the system and it's captured at the verification stage, all you need to do is submit this and it'll automatically match to that purchase order. As long as the purchase order and the invoice match, then no further action is required in the Concur platform. They can simply be extracted, the invoice can be extracted, payment out of your ERP. So ultimately, we can have a two-way match, so invoice to purchase order, or alternatively, if you have a requirement for a three-way match, purchase order, invoice, and goods receipt, then that can also be facilitated in the system. But from a Concur point of view, as long as any of the mandatory information has been captured, so you'll notice that a number of the fields actually have a little red line to the left of them. That is mandatory information required by either the Concur solution itself or by the customer. So we can add additional custom fields at this point to capture industry-specific information that may be required. Or alternatively, we can just assign it out to the end user who will actually do the coding of that particular invoice if it's not PO related. I'm just going to assign this out to the individual, and I'm going to log out as an admin, and I'm going to log in as the end user to show you how simple and easy it is for the end user to be able to access the system and to be able to code those invoices when they come through to them. The user will get a notification, can be an email notification, to make them aware that an invoice is pending their action. They would simply log into the Concur solution and view their invoices, and then select the invoice that has just come through. So the City Hi-Fi invoice is now visible to me. The information's already been verified by the AP team and deemed to be correct. I have access to hyperlink back to the invoice if I want to view the invoice itself, and I can see the line items as they were received. You'll now notice that there's actually a distribution code against those individual line items, and that's because of where the invoice owner sits within the business. So this is my default distribution code as a user in the system, and that's typically where I would cost my invoice to. I can change that. So if I wanted to change line 1 to cost it to a different area of the invoice, then I could do so. I can distribute, I can import a list of distributions. So if it's a large bill across the business, I can import a template to distribute that across multiple areas of the business. Alternatively, if I'm happy with the coding, I can leave it as it is, or I can split it by percentage or by value. Across different areas of the business. I'm going to split it 50-50 across the Australia and the New Zealand business. I'm going to code this one to the New Zealand division, the engineering department, and then based on the department, I have a short list of activities that I can clear to and save. Very easy and straightforward from an end user's point of view. You now see the distributions being split across 2 different areas of the business for one line item. The other line item remains the same. Really, from a user's point of view, there isn't much else for them to do. As long as they're happy with all the information that's being captured and everything is clear and they're in agreement that this is a genuine purchase, then all they need to do is actually submit this. It will go through a workflow. It will go through, again, it comes down to the user, they'll get a notification. The approver, in this case, will get a notification. With the approvals, they can be done on the mobile in the same way that the expenses can be approved in the mobile. The invoices can also be viewed and approved in the mobile. So we're just going to stick to the desktop for the purposes of today's presentation, but rest assured you can access all of this on the mobile application as well. So I'm going to look at my invoices for approval. And again, if you're on the mobile, you'll get a little ping, push notification to alert you to the fact that there is actually an invoice pending your action. I can see that City Hi-Fi invoices come through. I can, if I wanted to, I can actually click into my budget and see where my budget is at in terms of the spend. I can see the distributions for the different line items. I can see that 50-50 split. Again, I have access to the invoice in the background. I have the ability to view all of the information that's available. I can send this back. If I had any questions around some of the spend or where it's being costed to, I can always send it back to the individual who's the invoice owner. Or alternatively, I can simply approve it. And now that has been, as long as it's fully approved in the system, that's now ready for extraction and payment out of your ERP. So very simple and easy to use solution from an end user, admin and approver's point of view. Approvals available on the mobile, so you don't necessarily need to be at your desktop to action those. And if there is purchase order information in the system, it doesn't even need to go for coding and for approval. It will simply pick up the details from the purchase order and potentially go to receipt if they're part of their requirement. They'll match off, and again, they'll be fully processed in the system and ready for payment out of your ERP. But that is the end-to-end process in the Concur platform. And I think that we've got some slides now on the stats around the improved automation results. So by moving to an automated solution, you'll see 53% faster times in processing of invoices. And these stats are based on a lot of research and actual interviews with existing customers and just globally through the Concur platform. We see 30% more efficiency just within an invoice management team, 505% return on investment, so 5-year return on your investment by going with an automated solution, 29% less IT staff time required to manage AP solutions, and 1.12% duplicate supplier invoices compared to the stats that Ray highlighted earlier. Really, with the Concur solution, you can be up and running with a payback period of 5 months, which is in itself very impressive. And that's it from me. Thank you.
For anyone who is interested in learning more about SAP Concur Invoice, please contact your account manager, or if you're new to Microchannel, info@microchannel.com.au, or give us a call.